My name is Ada, and I grew up in a small community where everybody knew everybody. Life was never easy, but I always believed that love could make even the hardest road feel softer. That was why, when I met Chaik, I gave him everything I had. He was handsome, gentle, and full of dreams. But dreams alone could not pay school fees. He came from a poor home, and his parents had already told him he would have to learn a trade because they couldn't afford university. Chaik cried the night he told me this. I held his hands and made a decision that would change my life forever. I will help you, I said. I will send you to school. Just promise me you won't forget me. He looked at me like I was an angel sent from heaven. Ada, I can never forget you. So I did the impossible. I used the money I had saved for years from my small tailoring business, money I planned to use to expand my shop, and paid for his admission, his rent, and even food. Sometimes I would sew clothes overnight just to send him money in school. I suffered, but I didn't complain. Love made the struggle sweet. People warned me. Ada, be careful, when a man finishes school. He may change. But I trusted him. Besides, I thought his parents would be grateful because I didn't only support him. I also helped them with food sometimes. 4 years passed, and Chaik graduated with a good result. I was the happiest woman alive. I even bought a cake for his graduation celebration. But then, everything changed. 2 weeks after his graduation, I went to visit his family house. I wanted to greet his parents and discuss the next step, maybe marriage, maybe engagement, at least something to show my years of sacrifice were not wasted. But the moment his mother saw me at the door, her face tightened. "What are you doing here?" she asked. I smiled politely. "Good afternoon, Mama. I came to see Chaik." She folded her arms. "You don't need to come again. Chaik is now a graduate. He needs a woman that fits his new level, not a tailor." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "Mama, what do you mean?" She looked me straight in the eyes and said words that cut deeper than a knife. "You have served your purpose. Leave my son alone." I felt the ground shift under my feet. This was the same woman who used to hug me when I brought them food. The same woman who prayed for me when I helped Chaik pay his fees. Just as tears gathered in my eyes, Chaik walked out. "Ada, I think you should go," he said quietly, avoiding my eyes. My heart broke in that moment, not because they rejected me, but because he didn't defend me, not even for 1 second. I walked away, shaking, ashamed, and angry. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept seeing his mother pushing me away, and seeing my years of sacrifice burning to ashes like dry leaves. By morning, one thing became clear. I was not going to swallow this pain. I was not going to walk away quietly. No, I planned a revenge so crazy that even Chaik's parents would beg me before it was over. But that is where the real story begins. I spent the next few days thinking, packing, and plotting. My heart was a storm of hurt and anger, but I knew I had to stay smart. This wasn't about revenge out of cruelty, it was about justice for myself. 4 years of sacrifice couldn't just disappear into thin air. First, I listed everything Chaik and his parents had taken for granted. My savings gone. My energy spent sewing late into the night. My love ignored. And yet I had one thing they didn't, me and my skills. I started small. I opened a new tailoring shop, but this time I didn't just sell clothes. I started offering exclusive designs, premium services, and fashion tips online. My reputation grew fast. People began saying, "Ada's shop is the best in town." Orders started pouring in from nearby cities. Meanwhile, I learned about Chaik's plans. After graduation, he had started looking for a good job. His parents thought he would become rich fast and didn't need me anymore, but the reality was very different. He was struggling. His pride wouldn't let him ask for help, but I had access to something he couldn't touch, my rising success. Then came the perfect opportunity. Chaik's parents wanted him to marry someone from a wealthy family. They even invited a few families to their home to meet him. I got wind of the event and smiled to myself. I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. I acted subtly. I started by showing up as a fashion consultant for the party, completely unrecognizable in a sharp suit, carrying a portfolio of designs. They didn't recognize me at first, but when I casually mentioned my shop's achievements, the air froze. They realized who I was. Chaik's mother turned pale. Chaik stammered, his eyes wide. He finally saw what he had ignored all these years. And that was only the beginning. I knew my revenge wouldn't stop with embarrassment. I had bigger plans, plans that would make them understand the full cost of underestimating me. The day after that party, the news spread around town like wildfire. Ada's tailoring business is booming. She designs for big clients now. She's the young lady who paid for Chaik's schooling. People talked. People whispered. And every whisper burned Chaik's parents. But I still wasn't done. A week later, Chaik came to my shop. I heard his voice outside before he even entered. He sounded nervous. Ada, please, can we talk? I stepped out of my office slowly, wearing a calm smile that made him even more uncomfortable. He looked different, no confidence, no pride, just guilt sitting on his shoulders. Ada, my parents, they didn't mean what they said. They were under pressure. Things are not going well for me. I can't get a job. Maybe we can start again. I looked at him for a long moment. This was the same man who told me to leave his house without blinking. The same man who acted like I was nothing after using my savings. Chaik, I said softly, I didn't come this far to go backwards. His face fell. Then I delivered the next part of my plan. You owe me money, I said. Every school fee, every rent, every feeding, I kept receipts, and I have written everything down. The total is 3 million. I want it back. His eyes almost popped out. He started sweating. Ada, please, where do you expect me to get that kind of money? I shrugged. You should have thought about that before letting your parents insult me. His mother stormed into my shop that same evening, shouting like a wounded goat. You're wicked. How dare you ask my son for money? I didn't raise my voice. I simply took out a file, placed it on my table, and said, These are the receipts. These are the bank transfers. These are the messages where your son asked me for money. If you don't pay me back, everyone will see the truth. Her mouth fell open. She didn't expect me to be prepared. She didn't expect me to fight back. When she saw the documents, her shouting stopped. She froze. Then she started begging softly. Ada, please, don't disgrace us. I smiled. Mama, I haven't even started. That night, something interesting happened. People in the village started supporting me. Women praised me for standing up for myself. Men shook their heads at Chaik, calling him irresponsible. The pressure was too much for them. 2 days later, Chaik returned with his father. They brought part of the money, 800,000, begging me to give them time to complete the remaining amount. I took the money. But I didn't stop there. I had one more plan. A plan that would change my life forever. And make them understand that losing me was the biggest mistake they ever made. I was no longer the girl who had spent years sacrificing for a man who couldn't appreciate it. I was now Ada, the woman everyone in town respected and admired. My shop had grown into a small empire, my designs were in high demand, and I had finally proven that my hard work could not be ignored. Chaik and his parents had paid back part of the money, but the real victory wasn't the money, it was the lesson. When Chaik came back begging, I remained calm. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply said, Chaik, I loved you with all my heart. I gave you everything. But love is not a one-way street. You and your parents chose pride over gratitude. You chose disrespect over loyalty, and I chose myself. His jaw dropped. His parents, too, stood silently. They had never seen me like this, strong, unshaken, untouchable. I smiled and handed them the remaining repayment plan. You'll pay me back, but more importantly, you'll remember. Never underestimate someone who sacrifices in silence. From that day on, Chaik and his parents avoided me, but not out of fear alone. They avoided me because they knew I had won. I had turned my pain into power. I didn't need them to recognize me. I didn't need their approval. I had my shop, my independence, and my dignity, and nothing could take that away. Sometimes at night, I still remember the tears, the late nights, and the sacrifices. But I no longer feel anger. I feel pride. I had been rejected, disrespected, and underestimated, and yet I rose. The crazy revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about justice, recognition, and self-respect. And in the end, I had it all.